If you're making this mistake with your conversion tracking on Facebook, then you're most likely going to be paying more per lead than you need to and not getting the results that you're hoping for. And no, I'm not talking about the Facebook conversion API. This is something completely different. And even if you think you've got conversion tracking set up and working well, it still might actually be affecting you. So in this video, which is brought to you by Skillshare, more on that later on, I'm going to talk about what this conversion tracking problem is and how to fix it. And I think this one's going to surprise a lot of people because it's not something that Facebook often openly talks about. Okay, so as you probably are already fully aware, there are two main reasons why conversion tracking is really important with your Facebook ads. One is so we can track our results. In other words, so we can attribute the leads and sales that we're getting back to our ads and see what we're getting for the money that we're spending. And second, perhaps more importantly, is so that Facebook and its algorithm can optimize and get us better results. All of that conversion data flowing back to Facebook is what feeds their optimization machine and the whole algorithm and helps it find more people that are more likely to convert and to give us the results that we want. Without all of that valuable data, Facebook ads would not be anywhere near as effective as they are, which is kind of what's at the crux of this entire problem that I'm getting to. See, conversion tracking is something that we set up manually, and when we do so, we have two choices. We can either choose between standard events or custom conversions. Now, custom conversions are an easy way to get set up. They take a few clicks. You basically enter the URL of your thank you page or post-purchase page where you want to track a conversion, and that's kind of it. For somebody who's new to Facebook ads, who has no tech skills and doesn't like to touch code at all, it seems like a fantastic option. So it all sounds pretty good, right? Well, they do come with a massive downside. And that downside, as you probably guessed, all comes back to that optimization of our ads. See, when we set up a Facebook conversion campaign, at the ad set level, we actually get to choose which conversion event we want Facebook to optimize for. So we tell Facebook, hey, we want leads or purchases or whatever that conversion event is, and Facebook goes out and gets that for us. Let's say, for example, you set up an ad set and you put some ads in there, and the goal is to get people to click on your ads, go to your website, and opt into your email list. In that case, you choose your conversion event and Facebook will go and try to put your ads in front of people within your target audience who are likely to convert into email subscribers. So as another example, let's say we wanted to get sales of an e-commerce product. We would set up a conversion campaign, and at the ad set level, we would choose the conversion event that gets triggered after somebody buys our product. That tells Facebook, hey, I want you to show these ads to people within my target audience who are likely to trigger this particular purchase conversion event. Now that makes sense, right? We tell Facebook which event we're optimizing for, whether it's leads, initiate checkout, purchases, whatever it may be, and they go and find people who are likely to do those things. But what Facebook don't tell us when we're setting our conversion events up is that this isn't actually how custom conversions work. Custom conversions actually use a completely different optimization model compared to standard events. Now, this information actually comes directly from solution engineers at Meta. So they did an interview on a podcast called Perpetual Traffic, episode 362 and 363. I'll put a link to that down in the description below as well, because it was a great interview, so credit to those guys. Now, the reason custom conversions use a completely different optimization model to standard events is because with custom conversions, Facebook just doesn't know what our randomly created custom conversions actually mean. Because we're creating them, a custom conversion could be anything. And there's no way for Facebook to know what a particular user on a particular ad account is intending with their custom conversion, whether it's leads, initiate checkout, or purchases. Facebook just doesn't know. So what Facebook does as a result is it just has to take all of your custom conversions and lump them together and treat them like one generic conversion event. If you're confused, don't worry, let's walk through an example. So let's say you have a webinar sales funnel where you're selling an information product at the end. In that funnel, you're going to trigger lots of different conversion events. For example, when somebody signs up or registers for the webinar, that would trigger a conversion event to signify a lead or a sign up. When somebody then visits the sales page for your course, that might trigger a view content event or an event to signal that they have viewed the sales page. Then you'll have an event for when they trigger the initiate checkout process. And finally, there'll be an event for when they purchase. So we can send all of that information back to Facebook. Now, if you're using standard events, Facebook would track each of those particular events individually. So they would track the leads individually, they would track the view content individually, the initiate checkout, and then the purchase, and they would group those together. Facebook knows exactly what each of those events are and what they mean because they're the standard set of events that Facebook provide for us. Now, if you were to choose to optimize, let's say, for leads at the ad set level, Facebook could then optimize for that specific event type. It can take all of the lead conversion data, aggregate that data, and then it can go out and try to find you more people who are likely to complete that specific event. And that is going to get you better performance. Now let's compare that to custom conversions. If you were to use that same funnel, you would have to create a separate custom conversion for each event. So you would create a custom conversion for when somebody signs up, you would create one for when somebody visits the sales page, separate one for when somebody initiates the checkout process, and then you would have a custom conversion for that specific purchase. Now, you know what each of those are because you label them however you want to label them, something that's memorable for you and something that signifies what each event relates to. But Facebook doesn't actually know. So in this situation, if you were to create an ad set and you chose to optimize for your custom conversion that happens when somebody registers for the webinar, Facebook would try and optimize for that, but they wouldn't just optimize for that webinar registration event. It would actually be mixing all of those custom conversion events and signals and trying to just find more people that are going to convert in general. It can't differentiate. And so you can see how the results are likely not going to be as good as standard events in that situation because it's not specific. And so for that reason alone, I don't recommend using custom conversions in many situations at all. My default is standard events, and I recommend you do the same. Basically, standard events will most likely get you better results, so it's a pretty good reason to choose those instead. Now, there are other reasons why I like standard events as well, and there are also some situations where you might use a custom conversion, and I'm going to talk about both of those things. But before I do, I want to take a quick moment to talk about the sponsor of this week's video, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of online classes for anyone who wants to learn new skills, whether that be for personal or business growth. There are courses on Skillshare for literally almost anything. If you've got a specific skill you're trying to learn or improve, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. From copywriting to graphic design, sales, productivity, and more, you can find classes that match your interests and goals. Something I'm personally working to improve this year is productivity. With 2 young children and trying to run 2 businesses, life is pretty busy right now. And coming into 2022, I was feeling less productive and more disorganized than I ever have. So I set a goal to figure out how to get as much as possible out of my very limited time and add a bit more structure to my days as well. So with that in mind, I had a quick look at the productivity section inside Skillshare, read some of the reviews on a bunch of the classes, and I ended up choosing a class from Thomas Frank called Mastering Productivity, Create a Custom System That Works. Thomas is a pretty well-known productivity expert, and that's another great thing about Skillshare. It's full of actual experts who really know what they're doing and are great at teaching what they do as well. And this class has honestly been a game changer for me. The class itself was fantastic. It gave me really specific things to do to build out a structured calendar. So now every minute of my day is literally accounted for. It also helped me build out a better task management system. So I'm tracking tasks in one system, and then I've got events in my calendar, which is a new way of thinking about things. I used to think about this as tasks and events kind of all lumped into a calendar, which didn't really make sense. This is far more structured, far more organized, and has had a real positive impact on my productivity, which is what I was there for. If productivity is something you're into, then that course is fantastic and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. Or if you want to explore other skills or just see what else is available on Skillshare, I have some great news. You can give Skillshare a try, which I highly recommend you do, and you can get access to the entire platform. That means every single class that is on there for a full 30 days for free. The first 1,000 people to use this link will get a month free trial of Skillshare. I'll put that link in the description below for you as well. All you need to do is click it, sign up. It's totally free, 30 days, take as many classes as you want. And I can guarantee there's going to be something on there that you will find helpful. Okay, so back to why I prefer standard events to custom conversions. The other big reason is AEM, or Aggregated Event Measurement. Now, this is something that Facebook actually brought in as a result of the iOS 14 privacy changes. And basically what we need to do is any event that we want to track with our ads now has to be part of AEM. And we can only choose 8 conversion events. That's 10 fingers. I don't know why I did that. We can only choose 8 conversion events to track with AEM. anything outside of those 8 and it's not going to be tracked properly by Facebook. So it's really important. Now, the downside of custom conversions is if you have multiple lead magnets and multiple sales funnels, then you need to create lots and lots of custom conversions to track all of those different lead magnets and all of those different points in all those different funnels. Now, that quickly exhausts those 8 events. You simply can't squish that down to 8 events. You're going to have many, many more, which is going to cause big problems with your tracking. But we don't have that problem with standard events, because with standard events, we simply use the same event over and over and over. For example, if we have multiple lead magnets, well, for each of those lead magnets, we would still use the lead standard event, and we just use that same lead event on every single one of our lead magnets. And that means that we just need to add that lead event once in AEM, and that's all good to go. Likewise, we have our initiate checkout event, our purchase event. We just add that once to AEM, and we can add those for all of our different products, and it doesn't take up lots and lots of different events. And so now you might be wondering, well, when do we use custom conversions? And really the only situation where I think they are helpful is for events that you want to track, but you don't necessarily want to optimize for. So for those events, it might be situations where you want to be able to see in the ad manager when a certain event occurred, when these custom conversions were triggered, but it's unlikely that you're ever going to select inside an ad set to optimize for that particular event. So these might be obscure events that happen deep in the funnel that you're never going to actually set an ad set to optimize for, but you still would like to see it. And so that's where you might use custom conversions. As I said, it's a really unusual situation where that might happen. It's not common, but if it does, then yeah, you go ahead, you set up a custom conversion, and that's totally fine. You don't have any downside to doing that. Now, if you are using custom conversions currently and you want to know what to do about it, well, the simple answer is switching to standard events is the best option for you. Now, the good news here is it's actually pretty simple to make the switch. As I said at the start of the video, a lot of people gravitate towards custom conversions because they're easy to set up. You don't need to mess around with code. But the thing is, Facebook have added features now that allow us to set up standard events in a way that's almost as easy. And I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so if we switch over to my demo account now, what I'm going to do is simply go over to the Events Manager screen. And from here, we just go down to Add Events, and we choose from the pixel, and we click Open the Event Setup tool. Okay, now all you need to do here is enter the URL of the page where you want to set up a conversion event. Now remember, you want to choose the pages that people see after they complete a conversion event here. So let's say it's the thank you page after they opt in to a lead magnet, or things like your post-purchase pages. So for this example, I'm going to show you a lead event being triggered when somebody opts into my email list. So the URL for that, I'm just going to enter here, and then I'm going to click Open Website. Now you'll see that's open my thank you page, and I've got this tool here called the Facebook Event Setup tool in the top corner. Now I can simply click track a URL. I can select whatever standard event I want to use. In this case, it's a lead. And then the URL, I like to do contains, and I like to strip the HTTP, and I like to strip the trailing slash as well. The reason for that is because some pages might not load with HTTPS. If that happens, I still want to trigger my event. And then the trailing slash, sometimes that gets added, sometimes it doesn't. It's a little bit weird. And by removing it, it makes sure we capture everything. Now, after I do that, this doesn't have a value because a lead in itself, they don't actually purchase anything. And I just click confirm. Now that is set up, you can see events on this page. We've got lead set up. I'm going to click finish setup, finish. And then I'm just going to skip that. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over to my thank you page, and I'm going to hold shift and refresh that page. Now, making sure in my pixel helper tool here that my pixel is firing correctly. I've got 2 on here just because it's a demo. So there's the pixel that I'm actually looking for, and it's firing correctly. So I'm going to go back to my Facebook Event Manager, and if I refresh this page, you can see the lead event is now down the bottom here. If you click on the drop down and click manage, view details actually, we can see, okay, there aren't any shown here. That's okay. What we're going to do from here is go to test events, and you can see that I've got the lead event processed via the event setup tool today at 3:36, and guess what? It is 3:37 now. So that is the event that I just triggered. So that confirms that the lead event is actually working. It's firing correctly. It's showing up in my test events, and that means that my conversion tracking is all set up using standard events and the event setup tool. So it's pretty simple to do. Anyone can do this. Hopefully that has shown you how to do that part. So my recommendation to you is to go through and replace all of your custom conversions with standard events using this method, or you can use whatever method you prefer for standard event setup. This is just the simple method. Now, something else that's really important is the Facebook Conversions API. If you haven't already set that up, make sure you do it. I've got a video right here that you can click now, go watch it and set up the Facebook Conversions API if you haven't done so. Hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.